Funeral for a King is the sophomore full-length album from Stygian Crown. This is a Los Angeles-based epic doom metal band who have some strong influences from traditional heavy metal as well as some extreme metal in their muscle memory, in their past, and in their resumes. This band definitely features folks you'll recognize from at least Morgion and Gravehill, but you might not have heard of the vocalist because it's, I think, the first thing she's been in. Their style has been described as something uh, like Candlemass, but with a death metal heaviness to their production and presentation. There's double bass drumming, there's heavier riffs, there's big production values. This is sort of a bigger version of traditional epic heavy metal or epic doom metal that they've it sort of evolved quickly over the course of two records, this being the second one. I think you feel a little bit more heavy rock influences from the late 70s. You can tell that they even mentioned they were listening to Rainbow when they came up with the name of the album. So that should say a little bit to the style of presentation here. It's a very classic presentation of a traditional heavy metal album in most ways. They start with an instrumental piece, they work into a big song, and it kind of goes from there, where they produce what I would say is a Ancient Dreams level presentation of doom metal with a little bit of extra aggression to it. So uh, I guess what I would say is I really liked their debut. There was no real downside to it. It's just that I felt like there was always a learning experience with this type of thing, and you could tell they'd only been at it, since about 2018, and bands take time to mature. I think that the vocalist mostly took command of that first record. But I think this second record, if there's one big thing that this one does, is that it puts her up front and more confident with taking the lead. And that does everything good for Stygian Crown. So we'll get to a song here and just see what the difference that makes here for this record. So I know it's kind of a tired line to say it's like Candlemass, but with bolt thrower riffs. It's not really that, but those two things do work together in terms of where leads and epic harmonies and guitar harmonies work. But that's not really what's interesting about this record. That is the style of it, and it is very heavy. But it's more that their songwriting has really been worked over in a lot of ways since the last record, because they've had more time than they'd intended to work on these songs. You can tell they put every bit of flourish, extra layers of guitars and fills. The drums they remain, I think, not overdone, but certainly take not just a purely cinematic focus. They're quite loud and upfront in the mix, but they feel like realistic drum performances and not, the worked over overproduced style that many bands go with these days in this realm. So I appreciate there's an organic element to the rhythm section. We hear the bass guitar very loud and clear, and the drums follow in a strong way. But the vocalist is still carrying the record up front, and I think that they've done a good job of mixing and putting together this record between multiple studios to make it works pretty well, considering it wasn't all done in one space and one time. So otherwise, I think this song is really ruled by its songs, and I think I've gone over a lot of the stronger highlights in the written review in terms of that. I think that the vocalist control of her vibrato and adding little harmonized layers to the beginning of certain sentences and stanzas and all that is really effective for creating scenery in these songs and presenting a story. It feels like more of a narrative for a lot of these pieces, and I love that kind of thing. It feels like it's up to the standard of the classics, not just Dio and that realm, but just 80s heavy metal in general, where it wasn't so thin around the edges in terms of substance and the thought they put into the presentation. So you could see these songs being performed live. You kind of want to after experiencing them on record, and that's a good sign. So otherwise, I think the big thing that I came away from this record after probably the fifth or so listen was they've got riffs, they've got leads all over the place, and that's always been a good part of this band, but there's just more riffs on this record, and especially the second half. They kind of they speed up a little bit. They push a few more riffs into each song, and for these extended epic pieces, it really kept my mind milling over the details for multiple listens because there was more content to be had on the second half. They weren't phoning it in with bigger gestures. It's more dense as it ends, and I liked that about it. It's different than most people would do with this type of music, where they, maybe the second half pushes it away. Otherwise, I think there's a lot of bravery that goes into a song like Blood Red Eyes. It is kind of a ballad. There's just vocals and piano and violin, and it gave me this sense of like, well, they could go even further with that idea and make a full concept album like a King Diamond record. And at that point, I'm geeking out to a level where I obviously like this heavy metal record. So I was very entertained, to say the least. This is one of my favorite records of February. And it comes out on the 23rd if you want to check it out yourself. That would be, I would say, a high recommendation, verging on a very high recommendation. It'll depend on time and like once I actually buy the record and get a good look at it myself. But otherwise, definitely one of the better records of February. It's a big recommendation on my end. If you're a fan of epic doom metal or epic traditional heavy metal, this is one of the first essential records of the year in that style, and you should check it out and read my review in the meantime before it comes out.